Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 313. Thank you for joining me. Hope you guys have had a great week, getting ready for Memorial Day weekend. I will be doing a show on Monday, and we will be picking up on where we go today in today's podcast. And in today's podcast, we're going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. I've been explaining what happened last year in the election. In the last podcast, I was explaining how the Democratic Party ended up with Joe Biden as a nominee in 2020, but then also how Kamala Harris became his running mate. And then when they ran for reelection in 2024, going on to explain how they covered up Joe Biden's cognitive and physical decline. And it was in an effort to get Kamala Harris, actually in an effort to get Joe Biden over the finish line. And so Kamala Harris could become the president of the United States. I've been explaining all of that. And we're going to get back into that in this podcast. We're going to start with this clip. This was the DNC chair forum. This was the forum that they had when they were selecting the new chair of the Democratic National Convention. And in the last podcast, we started the podcast with Congressman Ro Khanna and Senator Amy Klobuchar saying that we should have had a primary. Joe Biden shouldn't have run. We should have had a primary. And I was explaining why they didn't have a primary. They did have a facade of a primary. There were votes. Joe Biden's name was on a ballot and people went out and voted. And I guess Marianne Williamson was on the ballot in some places. The DNC fought to keep RFK off the ballot in many states, so he couldn't even be. So it wasn't a fair primary. It wasn't a primary. They didn't have debates. The DNC said they weren't going to have debates. They didn't want to have a primary because Joe Biden's cognitive decline would be exposed in the primary. So if they would have had a primary, what was exposed during the debate in June against Trump would have been exposed a lot sooner. With RFK and other Democrats who would have primaried. But the goal was to get Joe Biden again over the finish line. And so Kamala Harris could become president. So that's why they didn't have a primary. So this is the forum that MSNBC hosted to choose the new chairman of the DNC. And this was a question that was posed to all of the candidates at the beginning of the forum. Take a listen.
I have a show of hands. How many of you believe that racism and misogyny played a role in Vice President Harris's defeat?
Racism and misogyny played a role in Vice President Harris's defeat. They all raised their hands. Everybody raised their hands. There's people in the audience that raising their hands. And this is what I was explaining in the last podcast, that this is a corrosive problem in the Democratic Party. This is a corrosive problem that is dragging the Democratic Party down, this identity crisis, and blaming the racism and misogyny. Like I explained in the last podcast, Kamala Harris had to drop out of the primary in 2020 because she was polling so bad. She was polling in 5th place in her home state of California. Are those people in California where she was a senator, where she was attorney general? Are those people in California who preferred Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg above her? Were those people racist and misogynist in California? No. She's unpopular. She was unpopular. It was ridiculous to run this very unpopular candidate. It had nothing to do with racism or misogyny, but this is a corrosive problem in the Democratic Party. This was an image that was being shared after the election, and you can see it. This was being shared by a lot of Black women who had voted for Kamala Harris. You can see the 92% here on this one Black woman's shirt, that 92% of Black women voted for Kamala Harris, and they're going to sip coffee for the next 4 years and watch the country crumble under Donald Trump because the country didn't listen to the wise Black woman. The 92% of Black women were so wise that we knew what was going on, and we all voted for Kamala Harris, and you didn't listen to us, so we're just going to watch the country burn and sip coffee for the next 4 years because you didn't listen to the 92%. Listen, people, 92% of what? 92% of what is what you need to be asking yourself. This was the census information of the racial breakdown of the country from the 2020 census. And you can see that 92%, so Black African Americans make up 12.4%. And in the past two censuses, the population of Black African Americans has been going down. It's gone down from 13% to 12.4%, and in every census it's going down. While this number right here, Hispanic and Latino, that number increases. It's been increasing for the past 3 or 4 censuses. That Hispanic, why is Hispanic and Latino number growing? Why the Black African American number is shrinking? You need to be asking yourself that. But only 12% of the population is made up of Black African population. And 52% of that is women. So a little bit over 6%. That's what this 92% represents. 92% of 6% of the total population voted for Kamala Harris. That's not enough. You people can't call shots when you make up 6%, a little bit over 6% of the population. What makes you think that you can call all the shots? But that's what they think. They think because they make up 6% of the population. Now, where did this idea come from? I'm going to explain this to you here in a moment, where that idea comes from. This was a picture that went viral after Trump was elected in 2016, and they had the pink. They called these the pink pussy hats. That they had the pink pussy hat march the day after Trump's inauguration on January 21st, 2017. And this is a Black woman with a sign, "Don't forget white women voted for Trump." And these white women are all Democrats. They all voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. They're all supposed to be allies with her, but no, we're not allies. Don't forget that white women voted for Trump. Well, these white women voted for Hillary Clinton. They're out there protesting against Trump, but they can't, instead of forming alliances, they are coming out with, at the Women's March. Why do you have to be so divisive when these people are your allies? They voted with you, for Hillary Clinton. Now, maybe a lot of white women voted for Donald Trump in 2016. You should go to their event and hold this sign, "Don't forget white women voted for Trump." But you're at the event that is protesting against Trump, and you are showing a sign, "Don't forget white women voted for Trump." This went viral to shame white women that voted for Trump. Wanted to go back to this and explain too that you may wonder why 12% of the population have so much political power and believe that they can call the shots, because you got to understand where this 12% is located. The way that presidential elections work in the United States of America is by the Electoral College, and you have to win 270 electoral votes. You have to win enough states to garner you 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. And it basically comes down to in the last election, there were 7 swing states. That's it. It comes down to those 7 swing states. And this 12% of Black African Americans are in the heart of the urban areas of the most important swing states. You don't win Michigan without winning the Black vote in Detroit. You don't win Pennsylvania without winning the Black vote in Philadelphia. You don't win Wisconsin without getting out the Black vote in what's the Milwaukee and Kenosha and all those areas. You have to get the Black vote out in these huge urban areas in the most important swing states, or you lose the swing states. So that's why, this small percentage of the total population has so much political power. That's something you have to understand. Another thing you need to understand is that a lot of Black women did not vote for Kamala Harris. And this 92% number comes from exit polling, and exit polling is about as reliable as real polling or polling that happens before the election. And that's what happened, that these people, Kamala Harris couldn't win. Kamala Harris not only lost the Electoral College, she lost all 7 swing states. She didn't win one. She lost all 7 swing states, and she lost the popular vote. She could not win. It had nothing to do with misogyny. It had nothing to do with racism. She has been unpopular, and she's been unpopular for a long time. And the polls before the election, these fake polls, let these women and a lot of Americans believe that she could win when she couldn't win. And everybody knew she couldn't win. But so I don't know. The point I'm making is that I don't know how accurate this 92% is, that 92% of Black women voted for Kamala Harris, because I know a lot of women did not vote for Kamala Harris. There was this movement that when they made Kamala Harris the nominee, there was all of these Black women coming out with videos. Now, they may not have voted for Donald Trump, but they came out with videos saying that I am not with her. That was the hashtag. I am not with her. I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. And this is tons of Black women.
My name is Jocelyn Woodson.
Hi, my name is Silla.
I'm Karen Watson. I'm Yolanda Johnson from Georgia.
This is BB Diamond from New York City.
I'm Dana Galen, and I'm from Tampa, Florida.
I live in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Out here in Maricopa County.
Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
I am a proud African immigrant living in Florida.
I'm from the great state of New Jersey.
I'm not voting for Kamala Harris.
I am not voting for Kamala Harris.
Not with her.
I'm not voting for Kamala Harris.
I am not with Kamala Harris.
I am not with her.
I'm not with her. I'm not with her.
Kamala Harris.
I'm not with Kamala.
I'm not with her. I'm not with her. I'm not with her. There were tons of these videos. So I know a lot of Black women did not support Kamala Harris. This is a huge problem that she has. Now, I go back to this forum. Are those Black women misogynists? Are those Black women racist? Are they? So you're telling me that those Black women are misogynists and racist just because they didn't want to support Kamala Harris? There's a lot of them. It's ridiculous, people. It's ridiculous. She was forced on you. One of the most unpopular candidates that has ever run for president was forced on you. She loses, not only loses, the Electoral College, all 7 swing states, the popular vote, and it loses in a dramatic fashion. She loses in a dramatic fashion. Loses everything across the board. And you blame racism and misogyny? What's wrong with you people? Here's more.
I am for Donald Trump.
I am not with Kamala.
I am not with her because she is not with me.
I support President Trump and the economic policies our country experienced under his leadership as our 45th president.
President Trump will support our law enforcement agencies and fund them appropriately.
Donald Trump made me proud to be an American. I'm with Donald J. Trump.
We need a leader who can make America great again.
Trump puts Americans first.
So all of these, and I mean, this video is 3 minutes long. I just played 26 seconds. And I mean, so all these women, Black women, voted for Donald Trump. Now, what's going on in the Democratic Party? And let me explain to you why this identity and this focus on race and gender and that being highlighted above anything else is corrosive in the Democratic Party. Now, this is a video going back to the Pink Pussy Hat March on January 21st, 2017. And this woman is holding a sign, trust Black women. Trust Black women. First of all, so trust all Black women? And check out what goes. This is Brandon. I forget his last name, but he came up with the movement, the walk away movement, and he confronts her about trust Black women. Take a listen.
To you. You know, Black women are probably the least respected in America. Their voices aren't heard. Their issues aren't paid attention to. Many white women look beyond their own personal interests, and they leave Black women out of the conversation. And I think America needs to change about that.
What are we not trusting them to do right now?
How to care for our country, how to care for each other, how to stand up and fight.
We need to trust Black women on how to care for our country. We need to trust Black women on, what is she saying? This is crazy.
And I think America needs to change about that.
What are we not trusting them to do right now?
How to care for our country, how to care for each other,
our country.
How to stand up and fight for things that aren't right.
Millions of Black women voted for Trump. Should we trust them?
Look at her. Look at her. Look at her face. All these women right here, they all voted for Trump. Do we trust these women? Is what he asked. Do we trust these women? And she's stunned.
Ooh, I'll take your hand in mine.
And watch what happens here.
I don't think that's true.
That's
Millions
true.
of Black women voted for Trump.
Millions.
Way too many. Way too many. It is beyond me.
Should we trust them?
I don't know.
Maybe not trust Black women then.
That's not true. I do trust Black women.
Who'd vote for Kamala Harris?
I think.
So he says Kamala Harris here. I thought this was 2017 because she's wearing the pink pussy hats. Maybe they broke the pink pussy hats out again in the 2024 election because this seems like this is recently. So trust Black women, but not Black women that voted for Trump. You only trust Black women that voted for Kamala Harris.
That's not true. I do trust Black women.
Who'd vote for Kamala Harris?
I think. He wants to know if I trust the Black women who voted for Trump.
I think they voted against their own interests.
They're dumb. These women are dumb. They voted against their own interests. They're not smart enough to know what their interest is. They're not smart enough to know what's their best interest is because they voted for Trump. They're dumb. They're dumb. And this is something that I want people to understand is that in the Democratic Party, white women put Black women on a pedestal because Black women, for them, they are, it's like a football game. The Black women go out and then do the blocking so the white women can score the touchdown. So that's the way they champion Black women for their liberal causes and their liberal movements, that they were going to put Black women out front to block for us so we can score the touchdown. And this is something, again, that is corrosive in the Democratic Party, that if they voted for Black women that voted for Kamala Harris, we should trust them and listen to them because they're all wise. They're Miss Cleo or whatever. And the Black women that voted for Trump, they voted against their best interest. They don't understand the best interest because they voted for Trump. They're not as intelligent as those wise Miss Cleo Black women that voted for Kamala Harris. Do you see what's going on here? This is corrosive, people in the Democratic Party. This is the biggest problem in the Democratic Party right now.
It's really hard to put the idea of trust together with someone who is continuing to vote against themselves, right?
So it sounds like they don't have very good judgment.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's not having good judgment. I don't think they necessarily connect the dots.
They didn't connect the dots.
They're stupid.
No, they're not stupid, but I think it's...
No, I'm just asking but it is hard to trust people who are stupid and have bad judgment, right? And Black women who vote for Trump are stupid and have bad judgment.
Oh, we did not say that.
Yeah, but that's, you implied it. You implied it. 100% you implied it. You didn't have to say it. You've been exposed. So that was the whole thing, big people. Like I was explaining in the last podcast, that they knew this guy was infirmed. They knew that he was in mental decline. That's why people were like, what the heck is this guy not doing in an election year? He's not going to do an interview before the Super Bowl and get all this free publicity, millions of viewers before the Super Bowl in an election year. People were criticizing him. Why is he not doing an interview? He wasn't doing the interview because he couldn't do the interview. If he would have done the interview, what was exposed in the debate against Donald Trump in June would have been exposed in January in that interview before the Super Bowl. So it was all about, hiding this guy's physical and cognitive decline, hiding it to get him over the finish line. So this woman who could be president of the United States without getting the votes because they understood that she couldn't win. They knew she couldn't win, and she couldn't win. She couldn't win. And the only reason that she was on the ticket with Joe Biden in 2020 is because black activists, these black political activists in the Democratic Party, the smart ones, the smart black women, the Miss Cleos, they forced Joe Biden to pick Kamala Harris. They didn't force him to pick Kamala Harris, but they forced him to pick a black woman to be on the ticket. And let me explain to you how that came about. We were talking in the last podcast about this interview that James Clyburn, powerful congressman from South Carolina, been in Congress 35 years. And it came down to South Carolina, and people are now blaming James Clyburn for his endorsement of Joe Biden in the 2020 election, in the 2020 Democratic primary, which gave him new life and propelled him to be the nominee. Let's listen to this question again, which is completely bogus.
They blame you for President Joe Biden because your endorsement was hugely important for him in South Carolina. But I got to remind people, he didn't win all the delegates required to be president in South Carolina. There were other primaries.
Yeah, there were other primaries, but there were two other primaries before South Carolina, and Joe Biden lost both of those. He lost Iowa, and he came in fifth place in New Hampshire. And if he would have lost South Carolina, there would have been no money for him. Everybody would have been telling him to get lost because the voters don't want him. So it's very important to understand that. First, this question is completely dishonest. That James Clyburn saved Joe Biden's butt before the South Carolina primary, but also all the other candidates dropping out before the South Carolina primary. So all of the vote can be consolidated around Joe Biden. That also saved him because all these people dropped out. Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, Michael Bloomberg, all these people that ran in Iowa, ran in New Hampshire, and then they drop out before South Carolina to consolidate their vote. They endorsed, after they drop out, they endorse Joe Biden. So all the vote is consolidated behind Joe Biden. That gave him new life after losing Iowa and New Hampshire. So this question is very dishonest when you understand what happened. And like I was saying in about this 12.4% of black voters, that the reason that the black vote is so powerful is because where this black vote is. It's in the urban areas of our most important swing states. It's also in South Carolina. Much of this 12.4% is in South Carolina. So that was the narrative. You have to understand. That's why they were forcing Joe Biden to pick a black woman, because the narrative was not only that we saved you in South Carolina, black voters saved you in South Carolina. There's not a large population of black voters in Iowa. There's not a large population of black voters in New Hampshire. So even though Joe Biden loses Iowa and comes in fifth place in New Hampshire, he hasn't had the opportunity for black voters to decide on his candidacy yet. So when he comes into South Carolina after losing Iowa, coming in fifth place in New Hampshire, and then he gets the endorsement of a prominent black congressman. All the other candidates drop out to consolidate their vote around him. And then black voters come out in South Carolina and save him. Then they felt that they had leverage over Joe Biden to force him to pick a black woman for president. After he had already committed to picking a woman, again, he wanted to run with Gretchen Whitmer, and they forced him. They said, we saved you. We saved your butt. And in South Carolina, you owe us. You have to pick a black woman. That was the narrative. Lindy Lee was a Democrat fundraiser for Joe Biden. And then she was also a fundraiser for Kamala Harris when she became the nominee. I honestly believe this woman is a complete opportunist because now she has left the Democratic Party. She says they lied to her, which they did lie to her. I mean, but she's left the Democratic Party. Now she is calling herself a Republican. She's coming out with the book. But she does have a bit of an inside track. And then, but what she says here is completely wrong. It's partially true, but I want you to take a listen to what she says.
The role of Congressman James Clyburn has been seriously underestimated in the public sphere. He played such a huge role in so many instances of Biden's recent life, starting with his 2020 campaign. If it hadn't been James Clyburn, there would have been no Biden presidency. I want to be extremely clear about that. It's true. Because he came in fifth in New Hampshire. He was done. And he bombed in Iowa, too. Dave, do you remember this?
Yeah. Well, I remember they were basically trying to push him out and bring Mike Bloomberg in, and then that thing blew up.
Exactly. How many delegates did he win? Oh, that was
right.
Bloomberg.
Right.
But anyway.
Bloomberg. She's talking about Bloomberg.
So James Clyburn saved his butt by endorsing him and allowing him to win the South Carolina primary. If it hadn't been his intervention, Biden would have been done. And that was the point at which Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, and everyone made our work or rally around him. That was Clyburn.
That wasn't Clyburn. So what she's saying is partially true. Clyburn's endorsement did save him, but who put that all together? Who's the one who organized it all? Who made, after Joe Biden loses Iowa, comes in fifth place in New Hampshire? Who organizes the plot for everybody to drop out, for them to endorse Joe Biden and consolidate their vote around Joe Biden? James Clyburn comes out with the endorsement. Yes, that played a big role, but who organized all of that? Getting everybody else to drop out, making the deal with Pete Buttigieg that he's going to get a cabinet position. Who did that? That was Barack Hussein Obama, people. It wasn't James Clyburn. Barack Hussein Obama, long-legged Mac Daddy. He was the one running the whole thing, looking for Obama's hidden hand in candidates coalescing around Biden. Pressure increased on Mike Bloomberg as candidates exit the race and to back Joe Biden. They all got out of the race. Pete Buttigieg made a deal to get a cabinet position. It was all organized by long-legged Mac Daddy. He's the one who called up Clyburn, told Clyburn, "We need you to endorse Biden before South Carolina. All the other candidates are going to back out. We need to coalesce around Biden because if we don't, Bernie Sanders is going to run away with this thing." Long-legged Mac Daddy, Barack Obama, he's the one who did that. And then after Joe Biden ends up getting new life in South Carolina because of the black vote. There are no black people in Iowa, no black people in New Hampshire, but black people saved you in South Carolina. That was the narrative. The black women, the Miss Cleos saved you in South Carolina. You owe us, Joe Biden. You better pick a black woman to run with. Joe Biden wanted to run with Gretchen Whitmer, who, at least it made sense that she could bring an important swing state. Kamala Harris didn't bring nothing to the table, but 92% of 6%. That's all she brought. That's all she brought to the table. And think about this: if Joe Biden has to drop out in 2024, and then Gretchen Whitmer, who is, you can say what you want about her, she's a little bit silly, but she is a governor of an important swing state. She's got executive experience. She would have done better than Kamala Harris. Telling you. But African-American activists and operatives say Biden would pay a steep price if he chooses a white woman. Has to be a black woman because we saved you in South Carolina. That was the narrative. And she couldn't win. Kamala Harris. He ends up with Kamala Harris. She couldn't win. They knew she couldn't win. And that's why they were hiding Joe Biden's cognitive and physical decline, is because they were just trying to get him over the finish line. If we can just make it to November with Joe Biden as the candidate, get him over the finish line. I mean, they probably would have got rid of him like a few days after he was inaugurated. I mean, sworn in again for the second time. I mean, he probably wouldn't have even made it through January. His second term would have began on January 20th. He probably wouldn't have even made it to February 1st. She would have been the president. And that's what they were trying to do. Gerald Ford, who nobody voted for Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford becomes president of the United States after Richard Nixon's vice president, who he ran with, has to resign. And then Richard Nixon has to resign. Or after Spiro Agnew resigns, then Richard Nixon brings Gerald Ford. They force Richard Nixon to bring Gerald Ford on, who sat on the Warren Commission. Gerald Ford, nobody voted for him. And then when Richard Nixon resigns, Gerald Ford becomes president. And he was asked the question about how the first female president will come to power, be the first female president.
Mr. Ford, what advice would you give a young lady wanting to become president of the United States?
Well, I hope we do have a young lady at some point become president of the United States. I can tell you how I think it will happen, because it won't happen in the normal course of events.
Normal course of events means voters won't vote for it.
Either the Republican or Democrat political party will nominate a man for president and a woman for vice president. And the woman and man will win. So you'll end up with a president, a male, and a vice president, a female. And in that term of office of the president will die. And the woman will become president under the law or Constitution. And once that barrier is broken, from then on, men better be careful.
So that's what they were trying to do. That's what they were trying to do, get him over the finish line. So without getting any votes, because they knew she couldn't win. They knew she wouldn't get the votes to win. And when Joe Biden was exposed after the debate, they were left in this dilemma that we know she can't win. Do we, try to replace her now? Because we got to replace Biden. There's no way Biden's going to win. He just got exposed. The guy's a walking zombie. We're not going to win with him. So do we get rid of Kamala Harris too, since we know she's unpopular? She knows she's going to win. That's going to cause a huge problem. And that's what this young lady was talking about that we finished last podcast with. In the last podcast, playing this clip of this young lady who was a delegate in the DNC after Joe Biden is exposed. Listen, folks, look at the timeline. This is how bad the predicament that they were in after Joe Biden was exposed at the debate. And I don't understand why they thought that he wouldn't be exposed. Maybe they thought because he did so well. Remember, he did so well at the State of the Union address early that year. I mean, maybe they figured that whatever drug cocktail they had him on it for the State of the Union, we found the right drug cocktail. Even though if you go back and you look at that State of the Union, the guy's all hopped up on whatever cocktail they gave him. He's just yelling, reading the prompter, yelling at the screen. Some old man yelling. I don't think he did that well in the State of the Union. But anyway, he did well enough in the State of the Union to where he had, because there was all this speculation about his, decline even before the State of the Union. So everybody's watching the State of the Union like, is this guy going to get through it? And he does okay in the State of the Union. So I guess they thought that whatever cocktail they put him on the State of the Union, that we're going to put him on that same cocktail for the debate, and he'll at least do okay in the debate. No, the debate was a disaster. And so after the disaster of the debate, they're left with this, do we keep going with Biden and try to get him over the finish line? And some people were saying that, he had a bad debate, but it's his choice. That a lot of Democrats are backing Biden after the debate and saying, no, we don't want to get rid of him. We don't want to get rid of him. Because many of them knew Kamala Harris couldn't win, that she's the most unpopular vice president that we've had since polling began. So they knew that. So they're like, no, even though Biden exposed himself as being a walking zombie in the debate, that we're going to ride with Biden. Biden's better than Kamala Harris. Now, a lot of people were saying that, and there were others that were pressuring him to get out. There was this huge fight after the debate in the Democratic Party. Just days after Joe Biden is exposed in the debate, like a week later, a little bit over a week later, someone tries to kill Donald Trump. There's an assassination attempt on his life. That's why I want you to understand how big of a predicament that they were in after the debate. They didn't know what they were going to be able to do. So there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. The assassination attempt failed because Donald Trump turns his head. And then a week after the assassination attempt fails, Joe Biden's dropping out of the race, writing a letter, dropping out of the race on a Sunday. Because I promise you, if the assassination attempt was successful, Joe Biden was not going to drop out of the race. You gotta understand that. So this young lady, she explains, she says that no, because some people were calling for an open convention. And she says, no, they didn't want an open convention. They didn't want us to, choose our own candidate after Joe Biden had to drop out. But there were a lot of people calling for an open convention. This is Marianne Williamson. This is after Biden is exposed in the debate and people are speculating, is he going to drop out? What are we going to do? Take a listen.
Would you support Harris at the top of the ticket, Marianne?
What I support is the democratic process. When you say she would, quote unquote, step in, that's not how a democracy is supposed to work. This is supposed to be thrown over to the delegates. This is not about party elites saying, well, who are we going to decide? This is how we got here, because a small group of people, you think we were the Council of Guardians in Iran or something. A small group of people,
that's the way it works,
and media elites decided it's going to be Joe. That's how we got here.
Yeah.
The last thing we need is for anybody such as they to think they have the right to say it's going to be Kamala. This is about a democracy, and you can't have a democracy when you don't have a democratic process. This is about Kamala running if she wants, Gavin Newsom running if he wants, any of us running if we want, and the delegates. It should be in the hands of the delegates. And it's also very important that the media heed that insistence on the part of the people.
It should be in the hands of the delegates, that the delegates for the Democratic Party should choose our nominee. When Joe Biden drops out, we need to have an open convention. We need to have because we didn't have a primary. We didn't have, a fair primary, which we should have had before. But now Biden's been exposed. He can't make it to the finish line. Then we need to at least have an open convention where we can have it out and choose our best candidate, because Kamala Harris is definitely not our best candidate. She's not our best candidate. She can't win. She can't win. And this young lady who was a delegate, she was a delegate there. So, and we played this in the end of last podcast, but I wanted you to listen to what she says again about her experience as a delegate at that convention.
Hey guys, okay, so I wanted to share with you guys a really quick memento story. It's not really a memento, it's not really a story, but I wanted to give my thoughts about this book that came out. It's called Fight. And it tries to tell a story about what happened during the 2024 election. Now, I was a delegate at the 2024 National Convention, and basically, I think it's important for me to speak because I do not want history to be rewritten. I think this is a very important time that we're living through. And a time that we are realizing as a nation, as a national consciousness, that there is a problem with democracy in this country, and there's definitely a problem with presidential primaries, particularly in the Democratic Party and the way that it's run. So the problem with the book, Fight, is that they tried to say that they wanted an open convention. The Democratic ruling elites did not want an open convention. Okay, Obama,
some of them
Pelosi,
did.
Schumer.
So she says Obama, Pelosi, Schumer. Listen to what she says. So she says the Democratic elite did not want a open primary. Some of them did, or open convention. Marianne Williamson did want an open convention. Many other Democrats wanted an open convention. But she says that Obama, Pelosi, Schumer didn't want an open convention. That's not true. Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer were part of the group, like Marianne Williamson, that did want an open convention. Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer aren't stupid. They're a lot of things, but they're not stupid. They're diabolical, they're evil, they're wicked, but they're not stupid. And Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer knew Kamala Harris could not win. Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer knew that Kamala Harris was the least popular vice president in history since polling began. They knew that. They knew she couldn't win. So she's right. This young lady is right that there was a group of people, of powerful political people in the Democratic Party that did not want an open convention, did not want the delegates to choose the best nominee. But it wasn't Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer. And it wasn't Marianne Williamson and people like her. But I'm going to tell you who that was. So she mentions this book, Fight. And this guy, Jonathan Allen, is on MSNBC. This is one of the authors of the book, Fight. Fight is like the book that Jake Tapper just came out with, Original Sin. And it's basically giving a behind the scenes look at what happened in the lead up to the 2024 election. I want you to listen to what Jonathan Allen, the author of the book Fight, says here.
So President Obama absolutely did not think that Joe Biden should continue, according to our sources close to President Obama. And he also didn't want Kamala Harris to be the replacement for Biden.
He did not want Kamala Harris. President Obama he's after the debate, President Obama, the long-legged Mac Daddy. The long-legged Mac Daddy who's running the whole thing, man. He's running the whole thing. He did not want Biden to be to continue as the nominee, even though Biden, after the debate, he says, just had a bad night, but I'm going to stay. I'm staying. Biden was defiant. I'm staying. All these people were saying he should get out. But he says, I don't care. I won the primary. I'm staying. So Obama, the long-legged Mac Daddy, it's like, no, you can't stay, bro. You just expose yourself as a, walking zombie to the entire country and the world. You can't stay. But Obama was smart enough to know that she couldn't win. He knew that she couldn't win. So he didn't want her to be the nominee either. So Obama was actually, he was actually behind the scenes, just like Pelosi, just like Schumer, pushing for an open process, but they already had a candidate in mind that they were going to force on you as well. They were going to pretend like it was an open process, but they had a candidate in mind, and they were going to force that candidate on you because that's the way the Democratic Party works.
Want Kamala Harris to be the replacement for Biden. He didn't think that she was the best choice for Democrats. And he worked really behind the scenes for a long time to try to have a mini primary or an open convention or mini primary leading to an open convention. Did not have faith in her ability to win the election. So, and as it turned out, she didn't win. But
not only did she not win, she lost all 7 swing states. She lost the popular vote. She got destroyed. They knew she couldn't win. Obama knew she couldn't win.
To an open convention. Did not have faith in her ability to win the election. So, and as it turned out, she didn't win, but he was really working against her. In one moment, he had set up a phone call with Congressman Clyburn from South Carolina.
Congressman Clyburn. So in this moment, after Joe Biden is exposed, and the long-legged Mac Daddy is working behind the scenes to get rid of Biden, but also get rid of Kamala Harris. And who is he going to use to make this happen? The same person that he used in 2020 when he got everybody to drop out of the race to coalesce behind Joe Biden in South Carolina. He makes the phone call to James Clyburn. to James Clyburn. He's like, James Clyburn, look, we can't have Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris can't be the nominee because she can't win. And we need Joe Biden to drop out. So that's who Obama is calling to get this done. James Clyburn. Old faithful James Clyburn. Listen to what happened.
It turned out she didn't win, but he was really working against her. In one moment, he had set up a phone call with Congressman Clyburn from South Carolina on the day that Joe Biden handed off the baton to Kamala Harris. And Obama had set up a call with Clyburn for like 5:30 that afternoon. And Clyburn thought to himself, this guy's going to try to rope me into the open convention thing. I better get my endorsement of Harris out there fast so that this is a short conversation.
So Clyburn knew what Obama was trying to do, that he's going to call me long-legged Mac Daddy's trying to work behind the scenes to not only get rid of Biden, he wants to get rid of Harris too. And Clyburn's like, no, that I'm not going to play ball on getting rid of Harris. So just like Joe Biden put the letter out saying that he was dropping out, and then they put a note out a few minutes later saying, and I'm endorsing Kamala Harris, is what Joe Biden did, because Joe Biden knew what was going on there. When you look at this stuff, man, I swear it's just so comical. So this was reporting by Seymour Hersh, and Seymour Hersh is I think he broke the. I don't think he broke the Pentagon Papers. What was some big reporting back in Vietnam that Seymour Hersh, investigative journalist, he also broke the story where he said that the Biden administration blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. So that's who reported this story from his sources. I want you to listen to what he says.
Former President Barack Obama reportedly spearheaded an effort among top Democrats to remove incumbent President Joe Biden from office, even threatening to invoke the 25th Amendment. Veteran investigative journalist Seymour Hersh revealed this development, citing multiple sources including a senior official in Washington who provided insight into what was described.
Do you guys see how the long-legged Mac Daddy was running everything? He was running everything.
In turmoil. According to Hersh, Obama contacted Biden 3 days after the 81-year-old president suffered a stroke in Las Vegas on July 17th.
So they told us they told us he had COVID. That's why he had to leave that event in Las Vegas. But Seymour Hersh reported it was a stroke.
On July 17th, law enforcement sources confirmed Biden was taken to the University Medical Center in Nevada, but was later deemed fit to be flown back to Delaware. During a call on July 20th, Obama reportedly told Biden that he had Vice President Kamala Harris's backing to invoke the 25th Amendment, citing Biden's inability to perform his presidential duties. This conversation followed Biden's lackluster performance during the June 27th presidential debate, which highlighted his declining mental state. Despite the pressure, Biden refused to step down, leading to Obama's warning. Obama called Biden after breakfast on July 20th and said, "Here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment."
It's funny because Obama was working behind the scenes to force Biden out after the debate when he's defiant, saying that he's going to stay in, and he's threatening using the 25th Amendment, which if he's going to use the 25th Amendment, he has to have Kamala Harris on his side. But I wonder if Kamala Harris knew that Obama wanted to get rid of you too. I don't think she knew that. If Obama was working with Kamala Harris to use, if he was really talking to Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris had agreed to this, she didn't seem to know that Obama wanted to get rid of her too. It's interesting.
Duties. This conversation followed Biden's lackluster performance during the June 27th presidential debate, which highlighted his declining mental state. Despite the pressure, Biden refused to step down, leading to Obama's warning. Obama called Biden after breakfast on July 20th and said, "Here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment," Hersh wrote. He noted that the move also had the support of key Democratic leaders, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Hersh is reporting that Schumer and I have other stuff that's going to back this up. That Schumer and Pelosi were with Obama. They were on Obama's side. And they believed what Obama believed. And the group that Obama was which included Clooney and all these other people because remember Clooney wrote the op-ed, and if you don't believe that this group, Obama and Pelosi and Schumer knew that Clooney was writing this op-ed, this was all part of that group. So they're all part of the same group that is trying to force Biden out after he exposed himself in the debate. Biden's defiant, saying that he's staying in, and so Pelosi and Schumer are part of this group that Obama is leading to try to force Biden out. But they're not only trying to force Obama out, they don't want Kamala either.
Key Democratic leaders, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries is in on it too.
The West's involvement in the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines, reported that Obama did not plan to immediately endorse Harris as Biden's successor.
See? He were going to use Kamala Harris to get rid of Biden by the 25th Amendment, but he wasn't going to endorse her. It took Obama forever to endorse Kamala Harris, even after Biden had dropped out, because he didn't want to endorse her. Why did Obama not want to endorse Kamala Harris? Because Obama knew she couldn't win. So they were trying to use her to get rid of Biden by the 25th Amendment or whatever process they had to, but they didn't want to endorse Kamala Harris either. Kamala Harris wasn't going to be the candidate. They were just going to use her to get rid of Biden. And then once she did that, then you're gone too.
Who previously exposed the West's involvement in the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines, reported that Obama did not plan to immediately endorse Harris as Biden's successor. Instead, he supported a primary-like process to select a new nominee with another candidate in mind.
He supported a primary-like process that probably would have happened at the convention, an open convention process, but with a new candidate in mind. That means it wasn't going to be an open process. They were going to pretend at the convention like it was an open process, but Obama had a new candidate in mind. It wasn't going to be Kamala Harris, and it wasn't going to be Biden either.
Instead, he supported a primary-like process to select a new nominee with another candidate in mind. According to Hirsch, Obama had a specific agenda and sought to maintain influence over who would be elected.
So everybody knows Obama and Clooney are friends. Clooney comes out with the op-ed. That was planned. The long-legged Mac Daddy is running the entire thing. He's running the entire thing. So they did want an open process, but it wasn't going to really be open. They had another candidate in mind, but they did want to pretend to have an open process and give you guys the ability at the convention to at least, think that you were choosing the candidate because they had another candidate in mind. And so Obama, Schumer, Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, they understood the fact that Kamala Harris couldn't win. They knew she couldn't win. So who were the people that were forcing Kamala Harris to be the nominee? Who were the people protecting Kamala Harris and saying that, first of all, you're not going to get rid of Biden, and if you do get rid of Biden, you're not going to bypass Kamala Harris? It was 92%. It was 92%. It was the exact same people, the African-American activists and operatives that say that Biden would pay a steep price if he doesn't put a black woman on the ticket. The same people that said, we saved you, Joe Biden, in South Carolina, that you owe us, that it has to be a black woman to be the nominee. The African-American, the black activists and operatives, they were the ones forcing Kamala Harris to be the nominee. As soon as it was reported that Joe Biden had to drop out, then they started positioning that they were going to protect Kamala Harris as the nominee. But even before that, they were like, after the debate, the people that were the strongest supporters of Biden staying in, even after the debate, were the black activists and operatives. They were the ones, because they understood. They understood if Joe Biden dropped out, that Kamala Harris could not win, and that they were going to try to move Kamala Harris out. So to protect Kamala Harris, because the objective is to get Joe Biden over the finish line so Kamala Harris can be president of the United States, first black woman president of the United States, they understood that if we get rid of Joe Biden, then the potential of getting rid of Kamala Harris is there as well, and it's unlikely that she can win. So they were at first, these black activists and operatives who forced Kamala Harris on the ticket because of her skin color, skin tone. They were supporting, they were the biggest supporters of Joe Biden staying in the race even after he had exposed himself as the nominee. But Joe Biden, again, after the assassination, a week after the assassination attempt fails, Joe Biden writes a letter on that Sunday saying that he was dropping out. And then he comes out with another note after that and says, oh yeah, I'm throwing my weight behind Kamala Harris. I want you to listen to what Nancy Pelosi says here to Ezra Klein.
Yeah, well, I think here's the thing. The thought was that if this were to happen, but it happened fast, none of us had any idea he would do it that Sunday.
It happened so fast that none of us had any idea that, who do you mean none of us? Who's the none of us? Who's the us that we had no idea that Biden was going to, a week after the assassination attempt fails, that we had no idea, none of us had any idea that he was going to write that letter and resign on that Sunday. Who's the us? Clooney? Obama? Schumer? Hakeem Jeffries? Is that the us you're talking about? None of us knew a week after the assassination attempt failed, none of us knew that Biden was going to write this letter and resign on Sunday. And we don't even know that Biden wrote the letter.
Yeah, well, I think here's the thing. The thought was that if this were to happen, but it happened fast, none of us had any idea he would do it that Sunday. Oh, well, I didn't have any idea. Most people didn't.
Look, it looks like she changed because she says none of us. So she knows that who's the us? The us is the group. And then she catches herself and says, well, I didn't know. I mean, there's no us, but I didn't know he was going to do it that Sunday, write the letter and resign.
None of us had any idea he would do it that Sunday. Oh, well, I didn't have any idea. Most people didn't. So when he did that and endorsed her, then the thought was everybody wanted an open process. Let's see the talent. Let's see the bench of the Democrats and let them compete and see what they can attract. But when he endorsed her, then it was, are you with Kamala?
Are you with Kamala? So listen to what she says. Listen to what she says. She puts it all out there. She was with Obama and Clooney and Schumer and Jeff. They wanted an open process. That's what they wanted. They wanted an open process. And then whoever wrote that letter for Joe Biden says that he was dropping out. They put it out on Sunday, the letter. Didn't say anything about Kamala Harris in that initial letter. And then he comes out with another note saying, oh, yeah, and not only am I dropping out, I endorsed Kamala Harris. It's like a dig because he understood that Obama and these guys, these people that were, Jill said on The View that we thought these people were our friends. We thought these people were our friends, that Nancy Pelosi and I have been friends forever is what Jill says in another interview. We thought these people were our friends is what she says. And and not only were they trying to force Biden out because he wanted to run, Jill wanted him to continue running. They were trying to force Kamala Harris out and they understood that. Whoever wrote the letter for Biden saying that he's dropping out, they understood that they didn't want Kamala Harris either. So they write that letter saying on that Sunday saying that, okay, I'm dropping out because it's the best thing for the party. And then, oh yeah, and we're endorsing Kamala Harris too. And this is it. So they wanted the open process, but then after Biden endorsed Kamala Harris, they were going to try to move Kamala Harris out too. People is what I'm trying to explain to you because they knew she couldn't win.
I didn't have any idea. Most people didn't. So when he did that and endorsed her, then the thought was everybody wanted an open process. Let's see the talent. Let's see the bench of the Democrats.
Yeah, see what you got.
And let them compete and see what they can attract. But when he endorsed her, then it was, are you with Kamala or not?
When he endorsed her, it came down to, are you with Kamala or not? And the black activists and black operatives, they all circled the wagons around Kamala Harris and said, look, there's no way you are bypassing the first black woman to be president of the United States. If you do that, then you're going to, same thing they said in 2020, you'll pay a steep price. They threaten. Now think about this. They're calling Donald Trump Hitler, that he's going to destroy the entire country, and that, you know, this guy is such a bad guy. But if you don't pick a candidate with the skin tone that we like, then we're going to stay home. We're going to stay home and let Hitler be president. If you don't pick the candidate that is the candidate that has the genealogy or the ethnicity that we say, then we're going to stay home and let Hitler become president of the United States. That's they're basically saying. That's the threat that they're making to Biden in 2020. If you don't pick a black woman to be your running mate, then we're going to stay home and let Hitler be president of the United States. And basically, that's what they were saying after Biden dropped out. That if you go to the convention and try to have an open process and choose another candidate besides the black woman, first black woman, then we're going to stay home and let Hitler become president. This is what they were saying. All the black activists on TV and black political activists is that, no, you cannot bypass Kamala Harris, even though she can't win. Even though she's going to lose all 7 swing states in the popular vote, it doesn't matter. We're going with the black woman, and you can't bypass the black woman because she's the black woman. That's what was going on, people.
And the idea that we're going to take this nomination away from Joe Biden and give it to someone that the voters in the primary never voted for is, I think, a recipe for absolute disaster. And particularly if they step over the vice president here, it becomes really. Look, I'm going to be really straightforward. If the Democrats want to give the White House back to Donald Trump, let them go into a nomination process, open nomination process, and disrespect and step over the first black woman vice president in this country, and they will be committing absolute suicide. Absolute suicide.
Absolute suicide if they step over the first black woman. Listen to this loudmouth here. Take a listen.
Alyssa, is this notion that if he chooses to step down, which I do agree with you, that's his choice.
That's the only legal choice. I don't think there's a version that's not his.
It's his choice. I'm talking about this pressure campaign. It's his choice. Kamala, if she is leapfrogged and there's just some open convention, no Democratic nominee can win without the black vote. Black women will not support Kamala Harris being looked over. Why? Because she is ready, overlooked. But she is ready to be the president.
So black women will not support Kamala Harris being overlooked, even though she can't win. Take a listen to Bakari Sellers.
67% of Americans say that President Biden should withdraw from the 2024 race. In addition, 85% say he is simply too old for a second.
67 cents. This is when they're trying to force him out. And again, you notice that Sonny Hostin is like, no, it's Biden's choice if he drops out. Biden shouldn't drop out. And that's what Bakari's going to say. Biden shouldn't drop out because they know they need Biden to get Kamala Harris over the finish line. Listen.
These are massive majorities. So what is the path for President Biden now to overcome all of this?
Well, it's very difficult for him to overcome all of this because he's not only having to take on Donald Trump and the Republican Party, which has been preparing for this moment for a very long period of time. But he's also having to fend off what he thought were his colleagues in the House and the Senate and others who are throughout the Beltway who are creating this circular.
We thought they were our friends.
Squad. My entire message this whole time was, as David said so accurately, this is one man's decision. This decision belongs to the president of the United States.
It's his decision.
And, you know, for many of us, our goal is focused on November because we understand what type of danger this country will be in if Donald Trump is reelected.
You understand what kind of danger it is? If you understood what kind of danger it is, then you wouldn't be supporting someone that couldn't win. You wouldn't be supporting someone and forcing on the party someone who's going to lose all 7 swing states in the popular vote. If you understand how dangerous it is, Bakari. What are you talking about, bro? You're a joke.
I also concur with David that the next 48 hours are probably the most important 48 hours of this presidency and of his future, actually, in the White House. And so we shall see. But let me also say one caution, Wolf. I know this wasn't the question asked, but I must say this. If those same people who are calling for Joe Biden to quit the campaign believe that they're going to have an opportunity to skip over Kamala Harris or have an open convention, then I believe that would be more dangerous than anything Joe Biden can do between now and election day. And I just want to caution Democrats, particularly those who are watching this show right now, that there are going to be many angry voters, which are the backbone of this party, which you need to come out in those blue wall states to have an opportunity to keep the Senate, House, and win the presidency. But if you have the audacity to believe that Kamala Harris won't be the nominee if Joe Biden decides that, then this party will self-implode.
Listen to what he's saying. It's Trump is so dangerous and he's Hitler. But if you bypass the first black woman, who can't win, she can't win. She's going to lose all 7 swing states and the popular vote. But if you bypass her, then we're going to stay home. The black vote will not come out for any other candidate. Here's another idiot. Listen to her. Let me explain to you, because I speak jive, what she's saying.
Let me tell you something. I don't want to hear shit about a motherfucking open process. If you don't want
Sorry about the language, because she's ghetto, but she uses a lot of bad language. But this is just an example of the type of people, political activists, and the way that they were expressing the way they felt about Kamala Harris and an open process at the convention. This is no open process. Nobody, listen to what she says.
Kamala Harris to be the presidential nominee, then put a motherfucking name on it on who the hell you think should be the presidential nominee over Vice President Kamala Harris. It ain't gonna be anybody but motherfucking Kamala Harris. Ain't no time for motherfucking hypotheticals, bitch. If you have somebody that's more qualified, put that motherfucking name on it today.
So what she's basically saying is that she wants to know who wants to run against the first black woman, so we can go and intimidate that person, so we can go and all attack that person, put a name on it, is what she's saying. And again, this is just a small part. I have to pick this up in the next podcast, because I got a lot more. We're going to get into David Hogg and the Leaders We Deserve movement. I have a lot more to share with you guys, which I will on Monday. Hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.